Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says Pakistan's vast mineral reserves worth trillions of dollars could be the key to ending its reliance on the IMF. Speaking at the Pakistan Minerals Investment Forum 2025 in Islamabad, he announced a new policy that investors will now have to add value within the country instead of just exporting raw materials. The goal is for technology transfer and boosting local industry.
To the valleys of Sindh and plains of Punjab. And this is not a secret, but in the public domain, these deposits value trillions of dollars. And if we are able to harvest these great assets, I can say without any fear of contradiction that Pakistan would say goodbye to institutions like IMF.
Deputy Prime Minister 𝐒𝐭𝐲𝐬 backed the plan, saying Pakistan has what it takes to become a mining powerhouse, especially with major reserves like 𝐒𝐭𝐨𝐫𝐢𝐬 and rare earth elements.
It is indeed a privilege and honor to open the Pakistan Minerals Investment Forum this morning and in this convention hall. Today, we gather to deliberate on a critical subject that shapes economies, fuels technological progress, and holds the potential for sustainable development across the globe, investment in the mineral sector.
Meanwhile, local firm National Resources Limited has made a major copper-gold discovery in Balochistan's 𝐄𝐽 district with 13 drill holes already done and advanced drilling starting in May. The company says it's ready to scale up, with a $100 million fund and support from the provincial government. In another news, the Supreme Court has ordered anti-terrorism courts to wrap up all trials related to the May 9th riots within 4 months. These riots broke out after former Prime Minister Imran Khan's arrest and included attacks on the army sites. A 3-member bench led by Chief Justice Yahya Afridi is overseeing the case. Lawyers raised concern about the tight deadline, especially since many suspects are facing multiple charges. Still, court says daily hearings must happen and suspects' rights must be protected. So far, the Punjab government reports nearly 197 million rupees in damages, more than 24,000 suspects still at large, and over 11,000 arrests made. On the diplomatic front, UAE Ambassador Hamad Al-Zabi says Pakistan can now apply for 5-year visas again. This comes after his meeting with Sindh Governor Kamran Tasawwuri. While there were past concerns about unlawful activities and online behavior, the ambassador clarified that there was never an official ban. Moving to economic news, Pakistan Stock Exchange bounced back on Tuesday. The KSE 100 index climbed 622 points to close at 115,532. That's after a steep drop on Monday, triggered by renewed US-China trade tensions. Big gainers were Lucky Cement and Mary Petroleum, while Angro Fertilizers and Fauji Fertilizers saw minor dips.
Hamas has strongly condemned Israel's escalating attacks on Gaza, describing them as brutal revenge against innocent civilians. The group claims that these intensified assaults are not only military pressure but a form of collective punishment aimed at breaking the will of Palestinians. Hamas asserted that such actions would only strengthen Palestinian resistance, with the military escalation likely to fail in achieving Israel's objectives. The group also warned that military action would not lead to the return of Israeli captives, emphasizing that negotiations were the only viable way for their release. In another edition, Israeli authorities raided 6 UNRWA-run schools in occupied East Jerusalem, accusing them of operating illegally. These schools cater to Palestinian refugee children, and the Israeli Ministry of Education has announced plans to shut them down. UNRWA officials condemned this move, stating that it violated international law and would deprive hundreds of children of their right to education. This raid follows Israel's decision to prevent UNRWA from operating in Israeli-occupied East Jerusalem, raising fears about the future of education for Palestinian children in the region. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza worsens, with the destruction of 95% of water infrastructure, making rescue efforts even more difficult. Civil defense teams are struggling to save lives while battling fires caused by airstrikes, with water shortages exacerbating the already dire situation. Moreover, protests in the US and international criticism of Israel's actions in Gaza have intensified. In New York, Pro-Palestinian activists disrupted operations at Grand Central Station during Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit to the White House, chanting "Israel bombs, USA pays." In response to continued U.S. support for Israel, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad (PIJ) condemned the Trump administration for backing Israeli policies, calling it no different from previous U.S. administrations. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan also voiced strong opposition, calling the killing of healthcare workers in Gaza a war crime and an execution. Erdogan reiterated Turkey's commitment to supporting Palestinians and warned that Israel's actions, including plans to expand its control over Gaza, would lead to further instability. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that Ukrainian forces had captured 2 Chinese nationals fighting alongside Russian troops in eastern Ukraine, a move that could strain ongoing peace efforts. Zelensky shared a video of one of the captured men on X, and suggested that there may be more Chinese citizens involved in Russia's military operations. He ordered Ukrainian officials to seek a response from Beijing. Similarly, Russia claimed to have pushed Ukrainian forces from one of their last positions in the western Kursk region, bringing Moscow closer to regaining full control of the area. Russia's Ministry of Defense released footage of the recapture of 𝐒𝐭𝐲𝐬, showing significant damage to the town. Ukrainian forces had entered Kursk last year, but Russia has regained much of the territory in recent weeks, and now only 2 settlements, Gornal and Oleshnya, remain under Ukrainian control. The regional governor confirmed that Russia was nearing full control. The conflict has shifted to border regions as both Russia and Ukraine continue to fight for territory. Ukrainian President Zelensky confirmed that Ukrainian forces had been operating in Russia's Belgorod region to protect Ukrainian borders. On April 2, 2025, the U.S. administration unveiled a set of severe tariff increases, marking a return to protectionist policies not seen since the Great Depression era. This significant policy shift is poised to reshape global trade dynamics, with far-reaching consequences for the global economy. Businesses and policymakers worldwide must brace for the impact, as these new tariffs will have varying effects on different regions and sectors. The newly imposed tariffs are more aggressive than anticipated, with rates surpassing earlier projections. As a result, growth forecasts for both the U.S. and global economy are likely to be downgraded. While a global recession may be avoided, trade volumes are expected to suffer, disrupting economic performance through 2025 and beyond. China stands as one of the hardest-hit nations, facing substantial economic challenges that could lead to fiscal interventions, though these may not fully offset the negative effects. In Europe, the Eurozone is likely to see GDP growth reduced by 0.2 to 0.3 percentage points, and while full retaliation from the EU is not expected, targeted responses could undermine investment and stability. The UK has downgraded its growth forecast to below 1%, mainly due to weakened demand from the US and global uncertainty. Countries in Asia-Pacific, particularly Vietnam, South Korea, and Taiwan, are most vulnerable due to their reliance on trade with the US. In contrast, nations like India and the Philippines may fare better. Latin America is largely insulated from direct tariff impacts but will still face indirect consequences. The tariff increases will have sector-specific effects, particularly for industries reliant on trade. Businesses are advised to prepare for heightened uncertainty, with careful attention to their sector's specific vulnerabilities in this shifting landscape.